Welcome in, hello, hello. And we're here again. If you were here yesterday, you might recognize these wheels. And yes, the one on the right is still slowly spinning because we haven't landed on that option for anything that happened Thursday. But for those of you who remember, anything that happened Thursday ended with some fanfic reading. Well, it's Fanfiction Friday now, which means we're reading a fanfiction. Now, the channel point option to spin the wheel is still active for Fanfiction Friday because we have a fanfiction wheel. Normal way that Fanfiction Friday works is I'll spin the wheel once, and then for about 3 or 4 hours, depending on how long stream is, that's how long we're going to read fanfics. Because that's what we're doing. Now, based on my testing, well, those chapters are kind of short, but based on my testing from analyzing anything that happened Thursday, yeah, so it probably will take half an hour. Well, no, it does depend on the fan fiction and the length of the chapters. But I was able to read basically 6 chapters from 2 different fanfics over the course of a single hour. But now we're here for Fanfiction Friday. I almost put this off because I was just so tired, even after taking a nap, because of just how draining work was today. But screw that. We're reading fanfics. And so, therefore, it's Fanfiction Friday. And without further ado, with that said, let's go ahead and spin that wheel. Okay, let's spin the wheel again. Okay, because we already did some swan dive reading yesterday. And this is what it looked like when we first started the stream. We're gonna spin again, and if it lands on swan dive a second time, then we will continue reading swan dive. But I'm going to spin that wheel one more time. Let's go. Chat request or spin again. So I guess we're spinning again for the second time. So this time we actually landed on the spin again option. Later, I might split chat request or spin again into 2 different wheel slots, one for chat request, one for spin again. But right now they share a wheel slot. So we're spinning again. Really? It landed on spin again, and then both of the previous stories we've already read. I'm spinning one more time. If it lands on chat request or spin again, or either Swan Dive or Deku, well, if it lands on spin again, I'll spin again. But if it lands on Deku or Swan Dive again, we'll just go for those. But I want to see if we'll get something new, because you guys already had a taste of My Hero Academia's two very different fanfics. Again, really? Okay. I said if it landed on it again, we would read it. Well then, let's continue with Swan Dive. It's been a bit since I've read the story. Let's go ahead and go into it. To start with Chapter 4. Chapter 4 of Swan Dive. Okay. You know what? We're going to do what we did for Anything Can Happen Thursday, because this is one of the shorter stories. We're going to start a 1 hour timer. When the 1 hour timer goes off, we are going to finish whatever chapter we're on, and we're going to go back to the wheel. Bam! 1 hour 1 hour timer has begun. Chapter 4, Hizashi. Yamada Hizashi was curious. He'd noticed a change in his husband over the last month he'd been training this Midoriya kid, and he couldn't wait to meet the little listener himself. He had been a bit happier lately, and he'd been putting on more healthy weight. From what he understood, the kid's mom insisted he eat, and he even take him to packing Shota meals. Not that Hizashi hadn't tried the same thing, but apparently his cooking wasn't always edible. Hizashi couldn't be happier. He had to meet this woman and thank her. Please. Hizashi gave his husband the puppy dog eyes. He'd been begging for weeks to come with him to meet the kid. Shota locked eyes with him, and Hizashi could feel him cracking. Fine, he sighed, and Hizashi cheered. Yes. He paused when he felt his quirk vanish for a moment, and turned to show glaring at with red eyes and floating hair. Whoops. Sorry. Please keep in mind that only the basement is soundproof. Shota blinked, deactivating his quirk. Hizashi quickly gathered up his things and ran a brush through his hair, which he pulled back into a low ponytail to keep out of the way. He was vibrating with excitement as Shota drove them to the warehouse that he trained the kid at. The blonde grinned when he caught sight of the fluffy green hair 10 minutes after they arrived. The kid looked rather plain, but he was absolutely adorable. His entire visage screamed innocence, and Hizashi almost forgot how he met Shota in the first place. The kid noticed him immediately, and his brows furrowed in confusion. A moment later, his eyes lit up in recognition. President Mike? He gasped, and Hizashi couldn't help but find himself a little impressed. Not many people recognized him without his hair up and his overly loud outfit. Yep, Shota kept talking about you, and I just had to meet you, little listener. He grinned. The kid looked so excited, and the stars in his eyes only made his grin wider. I'm Yamada Hizashi. Feel free to use my civilian name. Midoriya Izuku. It's such an honor to meet you. I listen to your radio show every night. He bowed, obviously nervous around another hero. Hizashi laughed. He loved fans. All right, you two, that's enough. Shota spoke up, grouchy as usual, though Hizashi noticed the small smile he hid behind his scarf. Midoriya, start your warm-ups. You know the drill. Hi. With that, the kid started falling into his normal routine. Hizashi watched with amusement. You really like this kid, he laughed softly, watching as the kid ran and laughed around the warehouse. You're imagining things. Hizashi was about to throw when he noticed something off with the kid's gait. Shota must have noticed it too, because he immediately called him over. Midoriya, he gestured, pointing him over. Sensei? You're hurt. Shoto's eyes were narrowed, and for a moment Midori honestly looked confused. You're limping. Oh. He pulled the left pant leg, showed a nasty bruise on his ankle. It looked sprained. I forgot. His eyes and Shoto shared a look of disbelief. You forgot? I'm just used to ignoring it. I fell downstairs at school today. I didn't realize that it did any damage. Something was definitely wrong here. You fell or you were pushed? Shoto leveled him with a serious look, causing the kid to shift uncomfortably. I was pushed down the stairs. His eyes felt his chest tighten at the downtrodden look the kid had. I didn't see who. They came at me from behind. I expect you to tell me if you're hurt, even if you don't think it's anything major. I'll be the judge of that. Joe decided the majority to sit down. He tenderly wrapped his ankle, applying a cooling pad to help with the swelling. It looks like a sprain, not a break. Just to be safe, though, you should stay off of it for a few days. We'll work on other aspects of your training instead. Hi, Sensei. The kid looked miserable. What's wrong, little listener? His eye spoke up when Shoto moved away to gather some things. I I just feel like I've disappointed him. Like I didn't try hard enough. Here the frustration welled up in his eyes. Come now. His eyes shook his head with a soft smile. He's not disappointed. Trust me on that. He's worried about you. He wants you safe just as much as I do. He isn't angry or mad or disappointed. The kid blinked in surprise. I I know Shota better than anyone. I can tell what he's thinking most of the time, and trust me, he's angry at the people who shoved you down the stairs. You aren't weak because you got hurt. He paused for a moment. You know, I was bullied in middle school too. Really? But you're present Mike. Yeah, but back then I was just loudmouth Yamada, or yada yada as they called me. I was the class clown who didn't know how to be quiet. Nobody liked me, and people constantly made fun of me. You think I'm weak because I was bullied? No, of course not. Do you think Shota's weak because he was bullied? Absolutely not. You two are amazing, incredible people, and fantastic heroes. Then why would you think you're weak? Because I'm quirkier? Now that's not an excuse. Give me a real answer. What you believe, not what other people tell you. The kid stared at him with wide eyes. Quirkless isn't useless. I know plenty of people who are strong without their quirk. So tell me, why do you think you're weak? Midoriya opened and closed his mouth several times, unable to find an answer. If you can't find an answer to that, then let me ask you a different question. What makes you strong? He was quiet for a long moment. I I'm determined. I don't give up. Hizashi smiled, gesturing for him to go on. You and Aizawa sensei are helping me become stronger, and I'm really good at analyzing quirks. He had a small smile playing on his lips. People are supporting me. I've got 3 people now. Hizashi mentally winced at the small number. What's this I hear about analyzing quirks? Hizashi tilted his head. Oh, it's something I do in my spare time. I'm fascinated by quirks. He smiled, lighting up the entire room. Hizashi couldn't help but be awed by the kid's aura. Once he debuted, he'd become a popular hero even if he went underground. Midoriya dug around in his bag for a moment before producing a journal labeled Hero Analysis for the Future, Volume 12, and handed it over. As he flipped through it, he felt his eyebrows go up. Whatever Hizashi had expected, this wasn't it. The kid's analysis was incredible. He felt himself enraptured by the information that innocently presented itself to him. Excitedly, he flipped through it before happening across his own page. Holy shit. Hey, Sho, come take a look at this. This kid's amazing. There he gaped at the unexpected praise. It's not that good. Schroeder made his way over and took the proffered. Proffered? Is that a real word? I'm sure it is, but whatever. took the proffered notebook from his husband. Hisashi watched in mild amusement as showed his eyes widened in shock. Not that good. Kid, this level of detail, I think this is what we're going to be working with until that ankle heals up, he decided. Your analytical skills are incredible, and it'd be stupid to let that go to waste. Where did you learn to do this? Hisashi asked, curious. I taught myself. Like I said, quirks are so interesting, and I love thinking about how they work and what people can do with them. Midoriya's eyes shone with passion, and Hisashi found himself grinning at the kid's enthusiasm. Honestly, kid, Yoda flipped through the book, eyebrows rising further with every page he turned. If I didn't know you were quirkless, I'd swear you had some kind of analysis quirk. This level of observation and understanding is incredible, and honestly terrifying. Midoriya flushed at the praise, causing Hisashi to grin. Oh, Sho, can I help? Hisashi suddenly spun around to stare at his hubby with wide eyes. Sho gave him a raised eyebrow. I'm trying not to sneeze. That's why I keep pausing. Sho gave him a raised eyebrow. Help with what? It said. I'll train him academically, and you train him physically. Hisashi grinned. He'll still be your student, but I'll help out from time to time. Please, I want to spend time with little listener too, and if he spends too much time around you, he'll start carrying around a sleeping bag and glowering at the world in no time. He needs some variety. Yoda stared at him for a long moment, contemplating the option. Finally, he sighed in defeat. Fine. We'll set up a schedule to fit you in a few times a week. All right. He smiled cheaply as Sho deactivated his quirk again. Sorry. Midoriya's laughter made them both smile, and Hisashi couldn't wait to spend some time getting to know the little listener. All right. Foot. I need to adjust where I'm sitting. Chapter 5 Bullying. The chapter itself doesn't have a trigger warning, but then the question really is isn't the whole fic a giant trigger warning? Okay. Chapter 5 Bullying. Izuku had been training with Aizawa sensei for 4 months now, and Yamada sensei for 3. He couldn't remember a time in his life where he'd been happier. He was getting stronger by the day, and his combat training started 2 months ago. After the stairs incident, the physical bullying had died down, likely due to kids realizing that sending Izuku to a hospital would probably get them in trouble. They were lucky he hadn't broken anything, because Izuku wasn't sure if he could have come up with a viable excuse for the bruises. And he was sure Yamada and Aizawa sensei would have hunted them down. He had hard enough time getting them to back off as it was. As far as combat training goes, Aizawa sensei said he was a natural, able to pick up fighting stances and moves after only observing them a couple of times. Yamada sensei was thrilled with his academic skills, and the two regularly held conversations in English. Sometimes Yamada-sensei would throw in some German or French to throw him off, but Izuku was slowly getting those down too. He'd been getting a lot more confident in himself, and his quirk analysis skills were skyrocketing under his mentor's careful tutelage. He had 3 new notebooks to show for it, too. His mother was also now on a first-name basis with the two, who regularly came over to the Midoriya household to eat or just to hang out. It was weird at first, seeing 2 pro heroes at his apartment, but after a while it became weird to not see them there. He found out halfway through the 3rd month that the two were married, and Izuku only found it adorable. He loved helping Yamada-sensei, or Hisashi is told to call him when they weren't training, mess with his mentor. He would never get tired of seeing Hisashi-sensei flustered. And if the man made his training that day 3 times harder, then it was totally worth it. Izuku got ready for the day and came out to the kitchen to the familiar sight of Aizawa nursing a cup of coffee, while Hisashi helped his mother cook breakfast. She was helping him improve his disastrous cooking skills at a phenomenal rate. It made him happy to know that his mother had some friends now. Ani Mitsuki was her only friend, as far as he knew, and he knew his mother was a lot more social than he was. She liked having friends, but apparently the stigma of having a quirkless child affected her social standing. Izuku always blamed himself for the stress and lack of a social life. Morning, Mom. Morning, Sensei. Zashi. He yawned as he sat down next to Aizawa. Good morning, problem child. Aizawa ruffled his hair fondly, making him smile. Hey, little listener. Just in time. Breakfast is ready. Zashi grinned. He set down a plate of eggs, toast, bacon, and sausage. American? Izuku's eyes lit up. He loved eating food from other cultures, though American food was one of his favorites. Yep, eat up. There's plenty more where that came from. The blonde grinned and Izuku happily obliged. I kind of want eggs and bacon, but I don't want to cook anything right now. So I get to read about food. And I'm gonna have some of these Doritos spicy nachos. Bags open, and I got a check. Itadakimasu! He thoroughly enjoyed his cooking. 3 months ago, the blonde's cooking could be called a weapon of mass destruction. Izuku wouldn't even call it food, really. Not when the one thing that Hisashi had insisted was mashed potatoes ate through the plate. Yeah, his mom wasn't too happy about that. After that incident, she insisted on teaching him how to actually cook. Aizawa was commenting his husband's inability to learn to cook and took an uncharacteristic confident Izuku up on a bet. Izuku knew his mother, and there were some things that she could pull off that nobody else could. Izuku would forever treasure the photograph of Eraserhead and Present Mike in full costume, and as per the bet, it was signed by both of them. Izuku was now the owner of one of the only Eraserhead autographs in the world, and he was damn proud of that. You should get going, Izuku, Hisashi noted, unless you want to be late for school. The thought sent a trill down his spine. Crud. Thanks, Hisashi. Bye, guys. See you after school. He sent them a grin over his shoulder as he ran out the door. The moment he was out of sight, his smile dropped. He hated school. His feet didn't drag like he wanted them to. He made himself jog the way there so he wouldn't be late. He wasn't sure what had set it off. Maybe it was because he was doing better on the physical assessments at school. Perhaps it was because he'd skyrocketed to the top of the class in academics. But recently, the bullying had gotten worse. Well, the verbal bullying, that is. Like he said earlier, the physical bullying had died down a lot. That didn't mean he wasn't still receiving notes telling him to off himself, though. Usually, Kachi will protect him in his own backwards way by making himself the main tormentor of Izuku. People were constantly throwing jeers instead of punches. Anyone who attacked Izuku physically would answer to Katsuki. But with his recent jump in Well, everything. He painted a bigger target on his back than he'd ever had before, and Captain couldn't hog Izuku to himself anymore, especially when a few upperclassmen had taken an interest in him. Nothing noteworthy happened in class, with Izuku's test coming back with a now typical 100%, which he'd excitedly show Hisashi when he got to the warehouse, and the man would praise him for doing so well. He hid during lunch and somehow managed to avoid any of the bullies. By the time school got out, he was feeling alright, like maybe he'd have some luck today. He stiffened when he saw a few upperclassmen waiting by the school gates for him. Well, so much for luck, I'll have to wait them out. He was thinking. No, he shook his head. I'm different now. Besides, as I was sensei and Yamada will know something's wrong if I'm late. Where was it? Oh, that's right. With that, he quickly scaled the brick wall that surrounded the school. He bounced on top for a moment before jumping down carefully, making sure not to hurt himself. Unfortunately, he wasn't exactly quiet when he did so. There he is! A gruff female voice shouted, and Izuku bolted, months of training kicking in. He heard them give chase and tried to lose them down a couple of alleyways, making sure not to stray too far from his usual path. He ducked behind a dumpster, holding his breath and calming his heart rate as he waited for the third years to pass by. For a moment, he thought he'd lost them. You're fast for a quirkless wonder. He whirled around, falling into defensive stance, ready to run, but the alley only had one way out, and she was blocking it. Damn it! He cautiously eyed the fire escape. 4 third years leaned against the wall, 3 guys and a girl. Senpai, I wasn't aware you were here. I'm sorry for disturbing you. I'll just be on my way. He hoped they'd let him leave. He knew they wouldn't. No, I don't think you are, the girl smirked, her quirk allowing her to turn her fingernails into rock-like spears. He activated her quirk, pointing at threatening Izuku. We just want a little chat. You see, one of the boys, Mori Haruto, spoke up as he activated his quirk. It allowed him to create a separate barrier around a small area, perfect for situations like this, so Izuku couldn't call out for help. The pit in his stomach grew. Maeda Yuto was a boy with another fascinating and terrifying quirk. He could overcharge pain receptors in the body through physical contact. It lasted for only 3 seconds, but the results were horrifying. No physical injuries, nothing traced back to him. He would make an incredible interrogator, but the kid was looking to be heading down a more villainous path. Kimura Hayato smirked as he stepped forward. You see, I don't think you understand where you are in the food chain. He idly checked his nails. You're quirkless, a disgusting piece of filth that stains society. Your place to bow to us. You're a leftover from a weaker era, and honestly, you should be grateful to have the opportunity to help us practice our quirks. He glared before placing a hand on Maeda's shoulder. I think you know of just where you stand. His hand glowed, activating his own quirk, an amplification quirk. Izuku froze for a moment. That meant Maeda could use his quirk for up to a minute. He went to run when Fujita Yuna, the girl, shot out her spear. A sharp pain flared in his shoulder as the spear went through it and into the brick wall behind him, pinning him so he couldn't move. Izuku shook with fear as Maeda stalked towards them. Yet. Izuku went for his phone, trying to call for help, but Maeda knocked it out of his hand. For a moment, he saw the time. He was supposed to be at training 3 minutes ago. Hopefully, Aizawa Sensei would know something was wrong. No, you don't get to call for help. Maeda gave him a sickening grin as he placed his hand almost gently on Izuku's shoulder. Not like anyone would come anyways. Now, scream. Blinding white pain overtook everything. Izuku couldn't think. It felt like his entire body was being torn apart atom by atom before being welded back together. He was in too much pain to even pass out. His own screams were drowned out by the agony that grew with each passing moment. Knives of pain stabbed him. Thousands of volts of electricity coursed through his body, and scorching flames slowly ate away at his skin. His muscle peeled layer by layer as his nerve endings were flayed open. He couldn't process anything but the pain. After what felt like years, it faded. The hollow, empty wake left by the agony left him trembling. The only thing that kept him on his feet was a spike that pinned him to the wall. Looky here. After only a minute, he's shaking like a leaf. Maida mocked him, and Izuku's brain faltered. That was only a minute? It felt like an eternity. The third year looked over at Kimura, who activated his quirk again. Maida grinned as he approached Izuku a second time. Tears pricked his eyes. He wanted to beg him not to. He bit his tongue, though. A hero wouldn't beg like this. A hero would only beg to save someone else, not themselves. But first, Maida leaned in and grinned. I have a question for you. What? It's fairly obvious you're training with someone. Your confidence and physical abilities have improved drastically over the last 2 months. He chuckled as his eyes went wide. A friend of mine wants to know who's training you. Izuku stiffened. He's trying to find a certain someone. Perhaps a mysterious trainer is him? Izuku's gut twisted violently. Was this friend of theirs after Eraserhead? Maybe President Mike? Heroes often had a lot of enemies, and it wasn't unheard of for someone to seek them out for revenge. You wonder if Eraserhead had pissed off someone with power recently. Unless you want a repeat of what just happened, don't tell me what I need to know. I won't tell you anything, Izuku growled, even though his muscles wouldn't stop twitching and spasming. He would protect them, both Aizawa Sensei and Hisashi. He wouldn't put them in danger. He would not sell them out. Oh, a brave one. He smirked, placing his hand on Izuku's neck this time. We'll just see how long it lasts. Izuku was once more assaulted by the most blinding pain he'd ever experienced. It was more than anything he could have imagined. The pain was beyond bone deep, and he was sure that if he could pass out, he'd do so in a heartbeat. Suddenly, the pain stopped. It was more abrupt this time. It made a scowl, glaring at his hand. What the? A moment later, Aizawa Sensei's capture weapon wrapped around Maida and Kimura, knocking their skulls into a sickening crack. Midoriya! His eyes around the corner, a look of fierce concern in his face. Aizawa glanced at Izuku with just as much concern. You with us? He asked, voice calm and deep. Izuku felt tears run down his face in relief as Hisashi reached him, carefully pulling up the spike that held him up. Izuku clung to Hisashi, not caring that he looked weak and pathetic in that moment. Aizawa made quick work of the other two teens, tying them up. Hey, look at me, Izuku. Aizawa carefully tilted his head. What happened? They wanted to know who was teaching me. Said that a friend of theirs was trying to find someone. They wanted information. Izuku smirked. I didn't say anything. Aizawa carefully held Izuku in his arms, and the child felt himself melting into a safe embrace. They're third years at my school. Maida's quirk lets him overcharge pain receptors in people he touches. Chihiro's eyes widened in horror at that. The two heroes' eyes widened in horror at that. How long did he use his quirk on you? Hisashi asked. They could hear the ambulance in the distance, and he was already texting Inko. A minute the first time. Yasuka found his thoughts somewhat muddled. Was that the after effects of the quirk? His limbs felt heavy and numb, and he was suddenly incredibly tired. Hey, stay away from me, Izuku. As I jumped up his face, startled him awake. You got a nasty concussion. I do? He puzzled. Maybe he thrashed against the wall while he was under the influence made his quirk. Izuku wasn't sure entirely what happened next. The adrenaline was leaving his system fairly quickly, and it was taking his coherency with it. He was vaguely aware of Aizawa and Hisashi's worried faces, and they were saying things to him that didn't have any meaning in his muddled brain. It was almost like he was watching a show rather than experiencing something himself. like nothing was real. He felt like drifting. Everything was quiet and muffled and so far away. He didn't even fully register his pain anymore. And it was kind of nice, a gentle throbbing at the edge of his mind with all that remained of his headache. But everything around him moved strangely. One moment he was in Azawa's arms, with his teeth looking at him with concern and growing alarm. The next he was in the back of the ambulance. It came for a moment before Azawa leaned into his vision. Then he relaxed again. If his mentor was here, then he was safe. People were saying things, talking to him, but he couldn't understand them. It felt like cotton was in his ears, and he was so tired. But Azawa told him to stay awake, right? He couldn't remember why, but it was important to stay awake. But he did his best not to disappoint him. He must have spaced out again, because now he was moving to a hallway. Hospital? Was someone hurt? His eyes were so heavy, one nap couldn't hurt. Surely his sense they would understand. The last thing he saw before blacking out was Awa's face, alarm and concern shining openly in his eyes. He distantly heard his voice. Better wake up, Izuku. Yet, Izuku's not spacing out. He's passing out. Drifting in and out of consciousness, which is why everything moves around him strangely. Next chapter, Chapter 6, First Patrol. Okay, Chapter 6 time. Okay, so each of these chapters takes roughly 15 minutes, based on looking down at the timer. And we're 2 chapters deep into this read. Into this session, I should say. Chapter 6, First Patrol. Shota sat next to Inko and Hizashi by Izuku's bedside. He'd given his stamp to Detective Tsukauchi and then proceeded to camp himself next to his student's hospital bed. Luckily, it was the weekend, so he didn't have to worry about classes. He'd known something was wrong when Izuku wasn't early for his training. He was always early. But he didn't do anything at first. It was entirely possible that he'd gotten caught up with something after school. But his gut clenched when their agreed time came, and Izuku did not. Hizashi had been just as concerned, followed him. Izuku hadn't answered his phone, nor read his texts. Something was wrong, and Shota's heart tightened at the thought of finding his student hurt or dead. Shota locked his phone onto Izuku's phone's signal, tracking the location. At first, nothing seemed to miss. No worrying sounds or flashy explosions. Everything seemed normal. But the moment they neared an alleyway, normality shattered. Izuku's agonizing screams would haunt both his and Hisashi's nightmares for years to come. Shota had never run so fast in his life, and the moment he caught sight of some kid with his hand wrapped around the neck of his student, he activated his quirk. The screams cut short, and Shota wasted no time taking care of the attackers, with no small amount of fury and absolutely no mercy. The police were notified and an ambulance was called. There were bloodstains where Izuku had cracked his head off the brick wall. For a moment, he was scared they'd been too late. The way his student had fallen abruptly as soon as Shota had erased whatever that kid's quirk was, made him fear the worst. But then he'd seen the green-haired boy's eyes try to follow and track his movement, and Shota let out a sigh of relief. He's alive. He'd been terrified, seeing how out of his student was. He and Hizashi both were. Shota insisted on going with Izuku in the ambulance. As a hero, he was allowed to do so, usually because the people they save need to know they're still safe. And most of the time, the best way to do this is have the hero that saved them stay with them. The moment Izuku actually passed out as he was rushed to the ER scared Shota more than he was willing to admit. It downright terrified him. And then Inko came rushing in not 20 minutes later, crashing his chest a terrible sob. Thoughts spun around Shota's head as he waited for the news. This is my fault. Someone was targeting him because of my training. Because of me. Hey, Hizashi placed a hand on his shoulder, his eyes holding that same guilty weight. Before anyone could say anything more, the doctor came out, where he stood. We found no internal damage, aside from the concussion. Our scans found nothing abnormal, but we'll check again when he wakes up. Other than that, he's expected to make a full recovery, though he may have some minor nerve damage. The extent of that, well, we can't know for sure until he wakes up. You may go in and see him now. Shota let out a sigh of relief, as did his companions, as they went in. It's been nearly a day now, and Shota was refusing to sleep, no matter how much Inko worried over him, which he found sweet. But he wanted to be awake when Izuku woke up. He was the first to see it when the kid's eyelids twitched. Inko was sleeping on the other side of Izuku's bed, and Hizashi had gone on a coffee run for them. Aizawa? He groaned as his eyes blinked open, unfocused and tired. Shota released a heavy breath as he felt a great weight drop off his shoulders. Hey, problem child. How do you feel? He kept his voice low and gentle, not wanting to wake Inko. You look like crap. Isuka pointed out dryly with a wince. Shota grabbed a glass of water with a straw and carefully helped him drink. Thanks. You've been out for a day. We've been worried. You remember what happened? Yeah. 4 third years cornered me, and then you and Hizashi saved me. He smiled softly, but there was a small amount of bitterness to his smile. I'm sorry. You must be disappointed in me. Shota stared. Illogical. Why would I be disappointed? Everyone needs help from time to time, even pros. If they change anything, you're wrong. But I couldn't even fight back. Then we'll work on getting stronger. I'll teach you more techniques to help you. This wasn't your fault, Izuku. He didn't know when he started using his student's given name, but it just sort of happened. And it stuck. Even Hizashi did it. Aizawa Sensei. It's only Aizawa Sensei during lessons, he corrected. It's Shota, kid. Damn it, that smile was too bright to be legal. Should have had Hizashi grab my sunglasses. The month after that was spent mostly working on the kid's analysis skills. Shota and Hizashi didn't want to push him physically, though he could tell the kid was getting frustrated with the later workout routine. Luckily, he didn't have any real nerve damage, aside from the occasional shaky hand, so that was one good thing. Shota had honestly been unsure of continuing to teach Izuku. The kid could have been permanently crippled because of a connection to him. After all, he was lucky he got away with minimal damage. Hizashi and Inko, surprisingly enough, managed to convince him to keep teaching Izuku. If you leave now, he'll never recover. You'll break his spirit, Inko argued. You swore to protect Izuku. If you leave, I will never forgive you. Those words had hurt him more than he'd admit. Joe didn't know when it happened, but Inko had become a very good friend of his, almost like how he'd imagined his sister to be like. Joe invested himself even more in the kid after that, and either himself or Hizashi made sure to keep an eye on Izuku for time he left home to the time he reached training, whenever they could. If their presence in his life was going to paint a big red target on his back, then they were going to make damn sure this kid could fight back if he needed to, because they did not want a repeat of the alley incident. Jordan noticed the way the kids at school looked at him, but since Izuku remained stubbornly silent and refused to point out his bullies, Jordan could do nothing to intervene. He motivated to give Izuku more tools to use to protect himself. So Shota taught him intimidation techniques to scare them off, evasive techniques to give them the slip, and even stealth techniques to hide from them. All the while working his fighting skills, so if he ever needed to, he could give them their karma tenfold. And Izuku took after these skills with a vigor that had him grinning. It was getting colder now that November was here. It also marked 6 months that he'd been training Izuku. 4 months of combat training, 3 months of weapon training, and 2 months of stealth, intimidation, and evasive training. Izuku was already making leaps and bounds in confidence, and the two had grown fairly close to one another. Sometimes Hizashi would call Izuku a mini Zawa, much to Shota's annoyance, just because the two would nap together on occasion, and the kid was slowly learning to mimic Shota's expressions, and had a newfound love of coffee and cats. Morning, he greeted as he came into the kitchen. Inko and Hizashi were already cooking breakfast, as Shota and Hizashi had spent the night again. Long patrols sometimes made it easier to just crash at their friend's apartment. Inko gave them copies of the key to the apartment ages ago. Much to Shota's internal horror, the man tried to refuse, but Inko always got her way. And honestly, by this point, Inko had pretty much given them their own bedroom, right across the hall from Izuku. Speaking of, the problem child was seated at the kitchen counter with his own cup of coffee and sleepy smile. Morning, Joe, he yawned, giving Shota a one-armed hug, which Shota returned with his customary hair ruffle. Good morning, problem child, he smiled softly. Zuku, how did you sleep, little listener? His eyes must have not have heard Zuku enter the room earlier. He was getting much better at stealth. Well enough, Zuku yawned again, taking a long drink from his mug. You slept like Shota then, Hizashi deadpanned, making Inko giggle. You should take better care of yourself, both of you. As Inko placed her hands on her hip, so she sent Shota and Izuku a reprimanding glare. Honestly, how do you expect to do any hero work if you can hardly keep your eyes open? Turn attention to Shota. Maybe one day I'll throw out the coffee. You wouldn't. He narrowed his eyes, internally gasping in horror. He knew she would, even Izuku get a cry of horror. He'd grown addicted to dark, bitter substance over the months he'd spent under Shota's tutelage. And no, Zashi, that was not Shota's fault. Keep neglecting your sleep and you'll find out, he promised, and he held back a shiver. Inko was scary, and his traitorous husband was laughing at him. At least Izuku was on his side. I swear, one day you'll both turn into raccoons with those bags under your eyes. She shook her head fondly. Mom, Izuku sighed, you should know it shows a cat, not a raccoon. Shota shot him a mild glare. Traitor, I'm as much a cat as you. Izuku stuck out his tongue. I'm just making sure you know we're the same species. Now, boys, that's enough. Inko smiled. She set down their plates of breakfast before them. Eat up, or you won't have any strength for training today. Actually, I wanted to try something new. Shota smirked as they ate, and he could practically see Izuku's interest perk up. I wanted to take you on a small patrol tonight with me and Zashi. Unofficially, of course. No fighting, but I want you to see how it works. Izuku's eyes lit up in excited awe. Shota knew that this was a very big step in their game. It was more than just fighting in a warehouse or playing hide and seek or tag in the abandoned district on the edge of town. This would be a solid step towards becoming a real hero. He'd already run the idea by Inko and Hizashi, of course, and the two were all for it. Is that really allowed? Izuku looked towards Inko for permission. Don't look at me, Mr. Hero in training, he giggled. It's your decision. Yes, I would love to. Izuku beamed and showed a smirk. Good. Then today we'll practice your stealth and free running. You'll need them tonight. The night couldn't come quickly enough for Izuku. He was vibrating with excitement, and Shota and Hizashi couldn't hide their fond smiles. Aizawa Sensei had been very clear on what he was and wasn't allowed to do. As long as he stayed in their sights, he was fine. He was not allowed to engage in any form of combat for any reason other than to save his own life. Even if Shota or Hizashi were hurt badly, highly unlikely, they'd said, but still a possibility. He was supposed to run to safety and phone the police. Because engaging meant he'd be labeled a vigilante, and that meant he couldn't continue to be Shota's student, and that would break Izuku's heart. So he vowed to follow that rule. No fighting, period. As he took to the rooftop with Shota, Hizashi taking the street level because he was a wuss about heights, he felt exhilaration. He was allowed to carry his sai in the case of emergencies only, and was dressed in an all-black jumpsuit, very similar to Shota's. Shota had made it especially for him, and that made him feel warm and fuzzy. It was a solid reminder of the faith that he had. They were only an hour into their patrol when Shota stopped, head tilted as if listening. Izuku followed the example, quieting his movements and breathing to listen. He didn't hear anything, though, and looked at Aizawa Sensei in confusion. He sensed a gesture and follow as they ran toward the sound. Hizashi and Shota had been teaching him sign language as a form of silent communication, and so he communicated with Hizashi's parents if he ever met them, as they were deaf. Stay here, observe only. Eraserhead signed to him. Izuku nodded. He stuck to the shadows of the roof, careful of his silhouette as he watched Eraser jump down the alleyway where a woman was being mugged. It was over in a matter of seconds, and Izuku made a mental note of how Eraser had used the skills Izuku himself had been learning in a real combat situation. You can come down now, Eraser had called down to him. After he'd secured the enemies and made sure the woman was unharmed, he'd already left the alleyway and the muggers were out cold. Izuku carefully made his way down. What did you notice? Eraser had asked, looking at Izuku out the corner of his eye. I recognized the way you fought, the techniques you've been teaching me, and how you adapted according to the enemy. You hit hard and fast, and it was over before they even realized you were there. He thought, back on the roof, you heard something, but I didn't hear anything at all. It's natural. A lot of underground pros have to develop this kind of keen hearing. Yours will develop over time. That's another reason for you accompanying me on these patrols. You'll get to observe not only my technique, fighting techniques of villains too. Observe, absorb, learn, adapt. You'll continue to evolve as a hero with each new experience. I want you to watch and study the people I fight just as much as you watch me during our training. Start planning ahead. What would you do if you were the one fighting? Right, Izuku grinned, and he caught the briefest of smiles ghost across Eraserhead's face. The difference was subtle, as Eraserhead was a lot more guarded, and his motions were always hidden. Eraserhead, good to see you again, just like Izuku spoke up as he came over to apprehend the mugger. He raised an eyebrow to Izuku. He's observing only. Tsukuuchi, this is Midoriya Izuku, my personal student. Izuku, this is Detective Tsukuuchi Naomasa. Personal student? He blinked in surprise. Yes, that's why Mike's on patrol with me tonight. Ah, I wondered about that. The detective nodded in understanding. As long as he doesn't fight, I see nothing wrong with him accompanying you. He smiled at Izuku. Hi. Izuku grinned, and for a brief moment, the detective wondered if Izuku's quirk was something light-based, because he swore the alleyway was suddenly brighter with that grin. After that, the two went back to their patrol. Twice, he's had the pleasure of seeing President Mike's fighting style, and he mentally nerded out. They'd taken a short shift that night, 9 p.m. to 1 a.m. 4 hours. But it was some of the most tiring 4 hours Izuku had ever had. Maybe it was the hour. Maybe it was the excitement of something so new and so heroic. By the time they got off shift, the boy was ready to fall asleep on his feet. Shota chuckled as Izuku sent him a half-hearted glare. Looks like someone's ready for bed. Aw, little listeners all tuckered out. Shut up, she. Izuku mumbled. Shota scooped him up, ignoring his tired protest. No, Zuku's being mean. I didn't hear any of the stories, He Shota shot back with a smirk, making Zuko chuckle. We're doing this once every week, Shota explained to Zuko, who perked up in excitement. Thanks, guys. Tonight was fantastic. He grinned. Izuku was asleep before they reached his house. Chapter 7 Christmas! Alright. This is probably the last chapter of this specific story before we go back to the wheel. If it lands on Deku, I think he's done pro, I'm going to spin again. We need to have a new story. And if it lands on Swan Dive again, I'm going to manually pick something else from the wheel. Chapter 7 Christmas! Izuku sighed in contentment. He loved patrol nights. He was disappointed that he could only go once a week, but he understood why. It was dangerous, and he wasn't allowed to legally fight. Eraserhead and President Mike both had to be there in case something unexpected happened, and to keep a better eye on him, just in case. They could only coordinate their schedules once every week or so that's when they could take Izuku on patrol. After all, they were literally looking for trouble, which is bad enough as it is, but Izuku's practically defenseless in such a scenario because he wasn't allowed to fight, legally. So far, Izuku was doing a very good job staying out of trouble, and the things he was picking up from these outings were invaluable to him as a future underground hero. Now, you know how to track people, follow a trail, listen for those tiny signs of trouble, recognize a criminal meetup or hideout, and when someone was acting suspicious. Things that couldn't be taught in a warehouse or through videos. Things that only came with experience. He was proud of himself, able to move much quieter now, and could even keep pace with Shota most nights as they ran across the roofs. He wasn't as quiet as a teacher yet, but he was getting there, and his stealth skills were increasing too. The other day, he'd managed to hide in the same room as Sasaki for 20 minutes without being seen, even though he was in a rather obvious spot. Even Shota had been proud of him for that. Izuku no longer fell asleep after a patrol, not like he did the first time. So even though it was the last hour, nearly 12:30 a.m., Izuku was wide awake. As he patrols happened to reset his sleep cycle like Shota's, then the only one annoyed was his mother. He pulled his scarf around him a little more. Shota had recently been showing him how to use a capture weapon like him, and Izuku was thrilled. He was picking it up rather well. Of course, Shota's scarf was unique. Izuku practiced Shota's in the warehouse. The one he was wearing right now was just a normal scarf, unfortunately. It was almost Christmas now, and a thin layer of snow blanketed the ground, as it usually did in the Kanto region of Japan. Izuku smiled. His stealth training now included hiding evidence of his physical presence, too, so he got plenty of practice in the snow. Normally, he didn't need to worry too much about hiding his tracks on rooftops, though, especially when giving chase to someone. But hiding the crunching of his footballs in the snow was something he was practicing. It was proving to be a challenge, especially when running. He just didn't understand how a racer could move through snow so silently. Plus, he also had to be careful not to knock snow down into alleyways, alerting criminals of their presence. Apparently, according to Sasaki, Shota made that mistake once during his first winter as a pro hero. He still won the fight, but was hospitalized due to a concussion. Izuku didn't want to see a repeat, so he took the warning to heart. He grinned as the racer had finished tying up the muggers and nodded for him to come down. The green-haired youth quickly jumped down from the rooftop, using nearby fire escape to help him reach the ground safely. It was icy, though, and he slipped a little when he landed. He would have fallen if President Mike didn't catch his arm. Whoa! Say there, listener. He chuckled, his warm breath coming out in great puffs. Good landing other than the fall. You're going to handle this faster than I did. Eraser had grinned. I just have a good teacher, Izuku smiled. Mike? Eraser? A feminine voice called out happily. Fancy meeting you two out on patrol. Midnight. President Mike grinned, running out to meet her. Oh my gosh, that's Midnight, the R-rated hero. Or Izuku whispered in his breath. Of course you know about her. Eraser had smiled fondly. She's an old school friend of ours. Come on, kid, you were bound to meet her sooner or later. Really? Izuku's eyes shone. Yes, really. He smiled back to ruffle Izuku's hair, knocking off a few flakes of snow. I didn't know you two patrolled together. Midnight told her head as she nosed Izuku. We do once in a while, for the little listener. President Mike grinned. This is Midoriya Izuku, my student. Izuku straightened at his introduction. Your student? Midnight blinked surprise. As in, a personal student? Yep, I was just shocked as you at first, but man, has little listener grown on us. Little Izuku's part of the family, practically a mini Zawa in the making. Zafi, Izuku blushed, hiding his face in a scarf, much like his mentor. Oh my gosh, he's adorable, Midnight squealed. Kayama Nomori, just call me Auntie Nomori or Auntie Nem. She grinned. It's good to meet you, Auntie? As you know, she really wanted to call her that, but her expression was Christmas tree, so I suppose it was what she wanted to hear. Why don't you tell me, how long have you kept this little cinnamon roll to yourself? She demanded, pulling him in a very tight hug. Don't suffocate him, Hisashi cried out, snatching his back. I'm allowed to hug my nephew. Midnight grabbed him again, but Zuko avoided the hands and went back to Shota, who shielded him from the two. I'm not your tug of war toy, Izuku indignantly. I'm staying with Dad. The words slipped off his tongue with such ease and familiarity that he almost didn't realize what he said. When he did, however, his face healed from his intensity. He swore he melted snow in his hair. Sure didn't look much better, though he didn't move away. Dad? Nimuri's eyes were wide. Wait, is that what you think? Showed defended himself. But Sho didn't show me that he was practically our son. His eyes been told he was milking it for all it was worth. And Izuku's favorite tonight had one little thing. He looked Sho with teary eyes. You don't think of me like that? Part of it was Zashi, but another part of it was obviously full man's rejection. I was actually a fierce glare. I do think he's son, but Nomura jumped conclusions. Turned to her, made kind of awe and hope in Suki's eyes. He's not my biological or legal son, but he is like us. Tell anyone and they'll never find your body. Even Zai staring open shock at Shota. Izuku never thought he'd hear the Shota admit something like that aloud. The man ruffled Izuku's curl, and the kid looked like the best gift in the world. Hey, Izuku shuffled foot, scuffing the snow. If you want, you think you can join us for Christmas Day? I mean, if you don't have anything better to do, he tried out finding the strongest he could mutter. We'd love to, Hisashi beamed. Wouldn't miss for a world, kiddo. Cody gave a gentle smile. I'll bring lots of presents. Nomori bounced in place. And Izuku's little family grew by one more person that night. The rest of the patrol flew by, and he excited told his mother that they were expecting 3 guests for Christmas this year. Inko smiled as she placed the gifts under the tree. This year was a special Christmas, and she wasn't going to go halfway. Need a hand? He whipped around to see Nomori standing there. Fluffy Girl pulled tight to ward off the chill in the small apartment. You don't have to. You're a guest. Inko shook her head. I feel bad, honestly, intruding on our family time like this, the other one admitted. Don't. To be honest, Izuku is all I have, and for the longest time, I'm all he's had. After he was diagnosed quirkless, nobody wanted to even be his friend. His paternal grandparents wanted nothing to do with him, and even his father left. Inko felt tears welling up in her eyes as the other woman hugged her. I know he doesn't say anything. He's such a sweet boy with such a strong heart. But he misses his father. He doesn't even remember him, though. And when Shota and Zashi came into our lives, it's like everything gained color again. I can't remember the last time I saw Zuko look so happy. He leaned into Murray as he sat on the couch. They've finally been able to give Zuko everything I can, and I can never repay them for that. They're family now. You all are. And what about you? Murray asked, startling Inko. What about me? Don't you have any friends? I have Mitsuki. She's been best friends since we were children. Her son, Kati, was Zuku's best friend until he sniffled. And Mitsuki and I have sort of fallen out of contact. I know Katsuki bullies Izuku, though he'll never say it outright. And whenever I told her about it, he tried to ruin the situation. But I don't want to ruin her relationship with her son when it won't even change anything. Do you have anyone else? Nori pushed. I have Shota and Hisashi. Girls. Nimori shook her head. I was like, I had a good old girls' night out. Before I got married, I think. Too long, Nori whispered. Hon, you and I are gonna have a spa day. We'll relax, detox, and recover. Nori promised. You're gonna call me all the time and rant about everything that pisses you off. Of course, I'll do the same. He winked, causing him to giggle. That sounds nice. Not there now. Nori gently wiped tears from Inko's eyes. You're much prettier when you're smiling, Midoriya. Call me Inko. Midoriya makes you sound like a stranger. He's not. And call me Nomori, or Nem. Nomori grinned as she helped Inko to her feet. Come on now, we need these presents under the tree before the reindeer come. And by reindeer, I mean Hisashi's early rising tendencies. Inko laughed quietly as the two spent the next 20 minutes chatting about anything and everything they could think about as they readied the gifts for the boys, mostly Izuku. Morning dawned bright and cold, and Izuku didn't want to get out of bed. He groaned as someone tugged his covers, wanting nothing more than to curl up and sleep for a year. Problem child, it's Christmas. I thought all kids loved Christmas. Shoto's voice finally reached Izuku's ears. He poked one eye, rimmed with steadily darkening bags, out from under the dark blue sheets. He canned the All Might ones ages ago. Christmas? Yes, Izuku. It's Christmas. A smile touched Izuku's lips. Merry Christmas, problem child. We'll be waiting for you at the table. As soon as Shota left, Izuku was out of bed, getting ready. His room had changed a lot over the last 7 months or so. Gone was the endless army of miniature All Mights that used to cover Izuku's shelves and walls with dazzling smiles. His room now was a soft blue-gray color scheme, with splashes of bright yellow here and there. It was a very subtle tribute to Eraserhead, even though most of his merch now is present might. He had one figure or piece of merch from nearly every hero, even a few limited edition Eraserhead items. His black backpack with a yellow goggle-shaped zipper was handmade, and he got most of Eraserhead's stuff from Etsy. He didn't mind spending a little extra to show off his love for his favorite hero, even if it made Shota blush every time he came into his room. Izuku came out in his pajamas, as is customary during a household on Christmas morning, to see Nomura and his mother gossiping in the kitchen. Shota sat at the counter with his morning coffee and cat-themed PJs, and his eyes were covered in little birds. Ah, look who's finally awake, Hisashi grinned. Morning, Izuku greeted, before gawking at all the presents under the usually mostly bare tree. What? Why don't you come eat breakfast first? Then we can all open our gifts together, Inko suggested, knowing full well that was the custom in the family. Hi. Izuku was still baffled. Normally there was no more than 5 gifts under the tree top. Wait. Okay, stop. Stop the timer. Stop the timer. We're going to finish this chapter because we're damn near halfway done with the chapter and we're going to finish it. Then we will go back to the wheel. Izuku was still baffled. Normally there was no more than 5 gifts under the tree, tops. They never did big or expensive holidays. They didn't have the money for it. His mother worked very hard to keep the roof over their head and food in their bellies. He noticed a while ago that they weren't hurting quite as badly as they used to, and he suspected that Hisashi and Shota were contributing to some of their finances, but he never brought it up. As long as Mother didn't have to work as hard, but he'd never seen some friends under their tree before. Sure, there's some kind of mistake, unless Hisashi, Shota, and Nomura just give each other a lot of things. That could be it. Breakfast was finished rather quickly, and Izuku went over to the presents to start sorting them into piles. When he saw the majority of gifts were for him, he gaped at the adults. Something wrong? Shota asked, a smile playing on his lips. They say they're for me? Izuku couldn't believe how strange it was. Of course they are. You really thought we wouldn't spoil you rotten? Hisashi laughed. Spoil? Izuku shrieked. I don't need to be spoiled, he protested. You shouldn't spend that much money on me. It can go toward better things. Listen, hun, there's no getting it through their skulls. Just smile, thank them, and open your gifts, Nomura advised. Oh, but open mine first, she grinned, pointing to a brightly wrapped gift. From Nomura, Izuku received a new wardrobe. He wasn't sure what to think. It's not like he really wore much other than his school uniform, whatever he worked out in, but the thought was appreciated. He also got him a very pretty empty picture frame. A frame? For your first Christmas photo, silly, Nomura grinned, holding up a camera. After everyone's done opening gifts, I'm going to take a group photo to commemorate our first Christmas together as a family. Her words made his heart warm. Thank you, Auntie, he smiled, and Nomura squealed in joy. Oh, open mine next, as he was bouncing in his chair. Now, that's not the way we do this thing, Ink corrected. Let's narrate gift open first, then we all open the gift she gave us, then we'll all open yours, starting with Zuku. He smirked as he deflated a bit. Fine, he pouted, causing Shota to chuckle. Inko got a pass for a weekend spa trip from Nomura, along with some new clothes. He was thrilled, and soon couldn't remember the last time he'd seen his mother look so happy. Shota received a mug with cats on it, and Hisashi got a new leather jacket. Oh right, my old one was getting cold. Thought so, so I lined this one with Lux Fleece. It's a winter-only one. Thanks, Nam. You rock. Hisashi, okay, my turn. He bounced again. Izuku smiled, grabbing the 4 presents that Hisashi had gotten him. That's too much. The first one was a new pair of earbuds. He nearly choked when he realized that they were a pair he'd once eyed for their excellent quality, but dismissed because of their outrageous price. He was not going to spend hundreds on one pair of earbuds. Zashi is a purchase. This is too much. Relax, I know the company makes them and got a deal. Izuku relaxed a little, but he still sent him a glare with his heartfelt thanks. He wanted to retract that when he opened the next gift from Hisashi, a brand new iPod. You might want to open the other two before you bite his head off. Shoto smirked, amused. Izuku obliged, finding a new laptop and an Apple one at that, and a 40,000 yen gift card, $400. He nearly fainted. I can accept all this, Izuku said weakly. Inko looked just as shocked. I've been saving to spoil a kid for years. Please let me spoil you. I did not look regretful at all. Shoto shot him a glare. You should have considered their feelings first, he muttered to something. I got excited. And a new laptop? His old was almost 10, Shota. Take my advice and just go with it. He's never taken back, so just up to you. Trust me, the guy makes a lot of information in his hero job. He's a popular limelight hero, so he makes more than 6 times what Shota does. Nomura explained. If he doesn't spend it on you, it'll just sit in his account and collect dust. Or get spent on Shota. Figured. Thank you, Zashi. Izuku was still numb. He couldn't believe that this new expensive stuff was his. From Hisashi, Shota received a new pair of noise-canceling earbuds to listen to music without interruption and tune out Hisashi when he got to be too much. Nomura received a 20,000 yen gift card, and Inko was given a new tablet. Her reaction was similar to Izuku's. Shota's gifts were next. There was only one for Izuku, which made him relieved. Shota wasn't the kind of person to give things needlessly. He unwrapped it carefully and opened the lid. When he did, he stared in shocked awe, tears spilling down his cheeks. Is this really for me? He choked out, looking Shota with wide green eyes. Yes, I had it made just for you, Izuku. You've earned it. He smiled, not even bothering to hide it. He hadn't told anyone he was getting the kid for Christmas. Izuku reverently reached in the box, picking up a smaller version of Shota's capture weapon. It was a dark charcoal gray color, as opposed to Shota's weathered cream. He wrapped around his own neck, relishing in the familiar weight and soft texture. It felt safe and warm, and it smelled like Shota. It smelled like his dad. Hisashi and Murray gasped when they saw it, shocked that he'd passed on the knowledge of his own personal tool to anyone, even Izuku. To Izuku, it was a solid form of progress. It was a solid form of proof. The proof of their bond and of his progress. He got up and tackled Shota in a massive hug, tears spilling onto both of their capture weapons. Thank you, Dad, he muttered in man's neck, and Shota wrapped his arms tightly around him, running fingers through his hair. You've earned it, kiddo, he smiled. He ignored the photo Murray snapped of a shockingly domestic scene. He asked for a copy as payment later, but now Shota just wanted to enjoy this moment. After they were finished, Hisashi opened his gift from Shota, a new pair of work boots. I noticed yours were wearing out on you, and you were getting sores on your feet. This should help. Thanks, Sho. Hisashi blew a passionate kiss, making Izuku blush and Murray wolf whistle. To Inko, Shota had gifted her with a handmade recipe book. It's some old recipes from my family. I never use them, and I know you love to try out new things, so I figured you would like it, he explained. And the woman looked so touched she pulled Shota into a hug. You're an amazing friend, Shota, he beamed, and suddenly he knew where Izuku's smile had come from. He'd given Nomura a new camera, something he knew he'd regret later. He was ecstatic. Inko pushed her gift gently towards Izuku. There were several, unlike last year. He was confused. Go on, sweetie, open it, she urged, and Izuku couldn't help but notice the holes poked into the gift. Is it a lie? He blinked as he pulled the lid off the box. Meow. He blinked, green eyes staring into green flecked with gold. A black kitten with white markings around its neck crawled out of the box right at Izuku. He's all yours, honey, Inko smiled. Mom, he stared. He always wanted a pet, but he never really considered it before. Pets were big responsibilities, and Izuku was planning on being a hero. That was big enough responsibility in and of itself. What are you gonna name him, problem child? Shota raised an eyebrow. I could call him Eraser after you, Izuku challenged, causing Dash to chuckle. What should I name you? Izuku said, new command. You know, small white dot on his head. It looked like a snowflake fell and never melted. Izuku glanced outside to find snow gently drifting down. Yuki, he decided. His name is Yuki. The kitten meowed and curled up on Izuku's lap, seemingly content with his name. Seems like he likes it, Shota agreed. Now the rest of you. Inko looked at the others as Izuku opened the remaining gifts from his mother, all cat stuff. You didn't have to, Inko. You're already sharing your home with us, I protested. If you can buy me a new tablet and my son a laptop, then I can buy you a gift. She argued as I sighed and took the proper box. He slightly unwrapped it and opened the plain, unassuming box. He gasped in glee when he saw a new pair of headphones. They were dark blue along the band, and the inside had a little engraving of Eraserhead's goggles. These will be added to my hero costume, he proclaimed. I'm glad you like them, Inko giggled. I know someone who owes me a favor or two. They're sound canceling, so when you rescue someone, you can use your quirk without hurting them. Izuku was surprised that his mother thought so far ahead. Hizashi looked touched and wiped away a few tears. Thank you, Inko, he said softly. Now open this one. She smirked. She handed him another box. Hey, show it's for us both. Hizashi realized it was light and thin, like a folder or something. Maybe a photo album? Then open it, she declared, though it held no heat. They carefully unwrapped it, making Inko smile as her face dropped in shock when they saw what it was. What is it? Numari asked, and Izuku watched curiously. It's Inko's cookie recipe. Hizashi grinned. It was no secret the rambunctious blonde loved baking, and his sweets were probably good enough to open a shop with. But Hizashi couldn't figure out Inko's brilliant cookies. He looked at her husband and shared the excitement with him, but Shota's eyes were locked on the other paper. Her coffee recipe. Shota loved coffee, and while it's true that, when he's tired enough, he drinks anything with caffeine, he still fully appreciated and savored a good, premium coffee. And Inko's was some of the best coffee he'd ever had. He always did something to his coffee, and no matter what he tried, he couldn't figure it out. He considers it a fantastic recipe. Now he can make it at home and take it with him on patrols. Oh, there's something else for you, Shota. Inko smiled mischievously, holding a larger, bulkier package that looked soft. Curious, Shota took it and unwrapped the gift. Hizashi laughed when he saw the bright yellow sleeping bag. Shota always had his dark gray one with him, but it was old and cold and finally ready to be retired. You seem to need a new one, and I know so much you seem to like the color yellow. He gave a not so subtle look towards Hizashi, causing Nomori to burst out in laughter. And for you, Inko rounded on Nomori. I know it's not much, but I couldn't do much more on such short notice. He handed her two small packages. One was a pair of beautiful diamond earrings, while the other was a key. A key? For the apartment. Hizashi and Shota already have one, so you should too. Inko grinned at the baffled look in her friend's face. You better get used to it. Hizashi warned Mori. Once it gets in your clutches, you'll never be free, he grinned, ducking under a playful swat from said green net. Izuku sat, feeling embarrassed. Everyone had given or gotten each other something so amazing, and he suddenly felt like his own gifts were inadequate. Less than, because he couldn't buy them things. Hizashi first noticed the gifts. Oh, what's this? He reached down. From Izuku, he read, looking at us. Hey guys, got us gifts. He grinned. It's nothing special, just Izuku turned red, and Yuki meowed for his attention, which happily gave while hiding his face in his new scarf. Anything from you is special, Hizashi corrected, opening his present. It was a beautifully hand-carved wooden cockatoo. It was wearing headphones and sunglasses, with little music notes floating around the base. Curled protectively underneath its wing was a tiny fledgling, who was looking up at the cockatoo with adoring eyes. It was colored, white body with a yellow swoop. It wasn't hard to tell who it was. Hizashi was ordered. little list of mates for me? Zuko not embarrassed. I know so, but I'm still trying to get better at carving, but he was cut off by Hisaashi's hug. I love it, it's perfect. He beamed, and Zuko flushed with praise. Hisashi wasn't used to handmade gifts, and he felt they were a lot better than things you buy people. Giving him Zuko something more personal, but the kid needed a laptop. And how was he supposed to give Zuko songs he'd written for him? He didn't have an iPod to listen to it with. Nemuri opened hers, finding a carved lioness curled around her cubs. It was also beautifully crafted, and the colors looked professional. I didn't know what that would make you, but you can't respect Mother Lion, so I still went with that. I love it, Zuko. He smiled at his nickname for Zuko. Inko's was a protective mother bear, curled around a baby bear. Both were painted in dark greens, representing Zuko and his mother. I love it, sweetie, she cried in happiness. Joe opened his last. It was a cat. A black cat wearing his capture gear and a pair of bright yellow goggles sitting on his head. He was sitting, with his tail curled protectively around a smaller green kitten with a hurt leg. The cat was nuzzling the kitten, his stance protective. Joe just came with a small letter. Merry Christmas, Dad. I wanted to tell you how grateful I am to have you in my life. That day, that day we met should have been the worst day of my life, but it ended up being the best day instead, because I met you. I'll always treasure our time together, and I know that no matter what, you'll always protect me. You're more than my teacher, more than a mentor. You're the first person I've ever been able to call father, dad, and I'll love you no matter what. You and Hisashi are the best things that ever happened to me, and I know it's sappy, and I'm probably regretting writing this right now as you're reading this, but I just wanted to say thank you. Yoda felt the tears running down his face. He was someone that almost never cried. Part of it was his dry eye. He had a hard time getting tears to come in the first place, even when he wanted to cry. But he was also very in control of his emotions, and able to distance himself from any pain or trauma that would cause such a reaction. But this was different. This wasn't pain or sorrow or grief. This was love. The only time his wife seen his husband cry was when he'd proposed. He grinned when he realized the show was crying happy tears. Even Zuko started to freak out. I'm happy, Izuku, Joe explained, small silver accentuating his emotions. Yuri watched on in awe, having never seen him cry. You are? Yeah, I am. Thank you. He smiled. It was a bright smile, looking so strange on his face, yet so right somehow. Nimuri was quick to snap a photo, especially when Izuku hugged him again. Merry Christmas, everyone. Izuku's not his dad, because that's totally what Shota was to him now, even if he wouldn't always refer to him as such. This was the best Christmas he'd ever had. Shota blinked blearily as he tried to figure out what had woken him up. He was curled up in bed beside Hisashi in the majority apartment, recovering after some spiked eggnog, no doubt Nimuri's doing. He grabbed his phone to check the time, only seeing a missed call from Tsukuuchi. He quickly redialed the number. The man picked up on the second ring. Erased her head. Happy New Year. Tsukuuchi, he questioned. Taking wouldn't call him so it was important. Is there you calling me at? He checked the time with a wince. 3:22 in the morning? We've been investigating that attack on Midoriya, the one those kids you brought in were responsible for. Shredder was instantly awake and alert, and his movement woke him too. He'd figure out who sent them to attack him. Not quite, but we have figured out something. Whoever this guy was trying to find through Midoriya, it wasn't you. Shredder didn't know if he was relieved by that or not. He shared a look with his husband, who he knew heard every word. If not me, then who? We don't know yet. The kids didn't know. But from what we gather, through memory searching quirk, it seems he was looking for a villain of all. A villain? Hisashi echoed. Why would Zuko know someone like that? We don't know, but it's very possible that he's caught the eye of some very unsavory characters. Judging by the way he phrased everything, the villain this guy's looking for isn't some small time bank robber. He's a big shot. Someone with a lot of clout in the underworld. And for whatever reason, he had it in his head that this guy would have some connection to Midoriya. I'm giving you two this information to stay on your toes. Keep an eye out. I don't think we've seen the last of him. Thank you for the warning, Detective, Should replied, voice calm and steady as ever, even as his heart fluttered in his chest with the thought of villains coming after his problem child. He didn't really remember any conversation with the detective. He said his eyes frightened gaze, frightened and determined. Izuku's still in danger. He really either pinched the bridge of his nose, stave the oncoming migraine, or jacked the boy's bed and assured himself the kid was okay. Relax, Joe. We've been praying for this, right? To defend himself enough to get away should he be attacked again. He smiled at Shota, and the dark-eyed man found his worries quieting down. I don't know how you do that, he muttered quietly. Do what? Calm me down, no matter what's going on. It's because I love you, Hisashi teased, gently poking Shota on the nose. Yeah. He rubbed his nose absently, trying to stave off the itch left behind by the gentle touch. I love you too, you overgrown cockatoo. Let's try to snag a little more sleep, yeah? New year, new us, new family, laughter and smiles to look forward to. Hisashi was almost as bright as Zuku's. Almost. Yeah, we do. Shota smiled softly. The thought of having a son, or son-like figure, he supposed, in his life made his chest feel warm and fuzzy. It made him want to smile and laugh. The only person who ever made Shota feel this way had become his husband, and he honestly didn't know where he'd be in life right now if he'd never met Izuku. A year of family. He smiled softly, snuggling personal space heater. He subconsciously, a tiny niggling in the back of his mind told him that this happiness wouldn't last. All right. So that's chapters 4, 5, 6, and 7 of Swan Dive. And now we go back to the wheel, because I said we were going to do an hour of Swan Dive, and we did. A little bit longer than an hour, actually. But that's because we had to finish the story. All right. We are now going to spin the Fanfiction Friday wheel again. And it looks like we're going with Luminous. Okay. Alrighty, let's go with Luminous. Search. Hold on. Edit search. Luminous. Exclude crossovers. English. The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild Tears Kingdom. Okay. And search should give us one result. Okay. It gave me more than one result, but this is the one. Luminous by Sokka's First Fangirl. This is Luminous. Hold on, let me go chapter by chapter. There are 87 chapters of this story. Come on. Give me the chapter by chapter. All right. What? No, I didn't want. Go back. This is annoying. Why is it clicking things that I don't want it to click? Come on, computer. There we go. Screw it. We're just gonna read this as it is right here. All right. Actually, while we're waiting for this stuff to load and everything, I'm gonna go ahead and say to anyone who's lurking and that I haven't noticed, welcome in. It's Fanfiction Friday for debut week, day 5 of debut week. And all I can say is shout out to Sir Undead. His link is in the pinned chat message. He made this wonderful PNGTuber that you see before you. Since this is the debut, I'm using a simple brown background, a simple dirt background, I should say. And I haven't used the other overlay that I have, which has little squares that are all over the place, because I didn't want this to feel too cluttered right now, since the focus is to be on the PNGTuber. After debut week, however, I will be adding those other elements into the overlay. Something to show up behind the chat, number one, and another stuff along the bottom. But as it stands, right now we're focusing on the PNGTuber by Sarah Undead, and I say shout out to him. There we go. Now I can click chapter by chapter. Perfect. And now we have them set up in chapter form. Alrighty. Luminous, chapter 1. Prologue, Burning Field. I'll never forget those eyes, that beautiful smile. I still remember the way you said goodbye. No matter how hard I try, I can't forget about. Oh, wait. This is a song lyric. I don't know the um, cadence of Beautiful Girl by Broken Iris. I might in the back of my head. I don't think it's the one that goes, "They got nothing on you, baby. Nothing on you, baby." I don't think it's that one. Anyways, the second Ruta's lights turned red, Dorfin's heart stopped. He'd seen Ruta when she was first excavated. No light at all. A dead thing. He'd seen how she lit up, shining blue, as soon as Mifa approached. And now this. He'd never seen this before. All around them, Hyrule burned. The sky was red despite the midday hour. The sky was red. Despite the midday hour, the moon rose in the sky, red as blood. The clouds were black. The very air smelled of sulfur, and the weather was unlike anything he'd seen in all his long years. A raging hurricane one moment, shards of ice falling from the sky the next. He could see smoke and fire on the horizon. Monsters roamed in great hordes, more monsters than he'd ever seen. Fires raged, riverbanks burst. His knights aboard the village downstream from the domain had flooded, and they hadn't located any Hylian survivors. When he desperately ordered his best soldiers to rescue Mipha, only Sagan returned, battered and burned. "My king," Sagan dropped to one knee. Out of protocol or sheer exhaustion, Dorfan couldn't be sure. We couldn't. Ruta attacked. I've never seen anything like this." All the while, Ruta bellowed. She sounded in pain. Her shield, so rarely used, flickered to life and died again. She jerked from side to side. Her trunk rose in slow, awkward movements and suddenly slashed down, creating huge waves all across the dam. Sidon, cradled safely in Dorfin's arms, stared toward the reservoir with the wide eyes. Sagan continued his report. Root had lashed out with her lasers, swung with her trunk, stomped with her mighty feet. Her lights had briefly flashed blue and she'd calmed, before the lights turned red again and the chaos continued. No, Dorf thought. No, no, no. Not Mifa. Surely not my jewel. Any moment now, Mifa would run to the throne room and apologize for worrying him. She'd scoop Sidon up into a hug and laugh. She'd demand news of Link and rain down hellfire on anyone who dared tell her not to worry about her husband. Link, Jabu Jabu saved them. That boy was fighting this disaster alone. Had Princess Zelda unlocked her powers? What of the divine beasts? Something had happened to Varuta. Something had driven her out of control. Had the same thing happened to the other divine beasts? Mifa was not lost to them. She could not be lost to them. Nor was Link. That boy had been fighting since he was 4 years old. Any moment now, the world would right itself. The calamity would cease and his family would be safe. Then came the report that the Guardians were killing anything and anyone in sight. They were glowing red, just like Ruta. Muzu let a small, horrified noise. Sidon stared desperately at Dorfan, silently begging him to make things better. But Dorfan knew. He knew this was the work of Calamity Ganon. He turned their very own protectors against them. That first day passed slowly, and yet so quickly, too. It was a blur. Trello reported the other divine beasts had fallen. The champions were all trapped inside. A great number of Gorons had been killed trying to rescue Jaruk. Urbosa's little sister had to practically be held down and forced to stay away from Naboris. Desperate to save her sister, Lady Dara had tried to lead the charge to rescue Urbosa herself. Meadow was shooting lasers at anyone who came near. The Rito Elder who'd raised Rivali since he was little more than a chick, fell in his attempt to rescue the boy. There was still no news of Link and Zelda. Find him, Dorfin orders his son Rose. He turned to Trello and Sagan, eyes blazing. Find my son and bring him home. Protect your prince. Trello and Sagan bowed. Sagan, too injured to join the search, barked orders at the knights and rapidly came up with plans. Trello led the charge. They could only send a small group, but there was no shortage of volunteers. For all the older Zora had been shocked at Mipha and Link's relationship, they were zealous for Link's safety now. He made their princess happy. He was kind to their children and trained with their soldiers like any other knight. And, as Muzu once quipped, this meant the Zora now technically had two champions. It had made Mipha giggle and Link only shrugged with a faint smile. All the same, that one little quip became a point of pride among the Zora. They had Princess Mipha, wielder of the light scale trident, the best healer in hundreds of years, and after their marriage, they had Link, highliest chosen, wielder of the sword that seals the darkness, a prodigy in battle. And a great cook, Baz would always add. More soldiers rushed to the reservoir, wary eyes on Ruta. As that second day wore on, the divine beast's thrashing stopped. With one last roar, she stopped. She stood in the middle of the reservoir, glowing red as a terrible moon above them. All the while, that unnatural storms raged. All around them, their land burned. It took 2 days for news to arrive. Trello and his group of soldiers returned with a surprising guest. Lady Impa of the Sheikah, followed by 3 guards. The rain had stopped, but the wind hadn't. The red moon vanished, but the clouds were still black. The smell of sulfur was gone, replaced by smoke, blood, and death. It was hardly any better. Varuta stood in a terrible vigil. Mipha had not returned. Link was not with Trello, nor was he with the Sheikah. Lady Impa, always a stubborn, earnest, and dignified young woman, had clearly been weeping. Zelda was not with her either. It was strange not to see her at the princess's side. She looked at Dorfin and her eyes watered. She looked aside and quickly looked away again. I'm sorry, she said hoarsely. Muzu inhaled sharply, more like a hiss. Dorfin clenched his fist and tried to steady his racing heart. Where is Link? He asked. Sidon looked up, peering around soldiers and Sheikah guards, like he expected Link to be hiding behind them. There was a great battle at Fort Hateno, Impa said haltingly. Link, the Princess Zelda, she told me he'd already been hurt on the journey there. They were chased by guardians and monsters the whole way. And Blatchery Plain, it was... She swallowed heavily. Dorfin hardly dared to breathe. It was swarmed with guardians, Your Majesty. The Master Sword is damaged. Link was... His wounds were fatal, Your Majesty. Dorfin ceased to hear her. Mipha, dead. Link, dead. The calamity raged. The world was ending and 2 of his children were gone. There was a great ringing in his ears. The room spun. All he could do was sit there and try to breathe. This wasn't real. This wasn't happening. He'd blink and wake up. He'd go to breakfast and hold Mipha close. He'd smile at Link and get that rare, lovely smile back. He'd sit with his family in peace and watch them all proudly. Because they weren't dead. This wasn't happening. It wasn't. This was all some dreadful nightmare. But then he felt Sidon's tiny hand on top of his. He heard his son's uncertain whimper. Reality slowly came back. This was a nightmare, but it was real. All hope isn't lost, Impa was saying desperately, and Dorfin slowly returned to the present as the ring left his ears. Muzu was shouting. How could you possibly say that? His dear demanded. His breathing was rapid. He was on the verge of tears. Pointed accusingly. This is your doing. You and your people. Your technology has done this. Our princess is trapped. Our prince is dead. Pyro is destroyed, and your princess couldn't use powers as she should have. Don't you dare talk about her like that, Impa shouted, moved from desperation and rage. And Link will return. In another lifetime, maybe, when the hero's soul reincarnates. He's in the Shrine of Resurrection, Impa screamed, right in Muzen's face. He will return. Princess Zelda's holding back Calamity as we speak. Didn't you notice the change? Her powers are awoken. She's gone to Hyrule Castle. Shocked silence reigned. Trello looked uneasy. Dorfin had never seen the man look so unsure. Dorfin felt sick. The thought of Zelda, freshly 17, facing down the greatest horror in the world all alone, made him want to weep. The thought of his son in law, his dear Link, lying dead in some field made him want to break down entirely. Shrine of Resurrection? Dorfin could hear how weak his voice was. What is that? Impa stepped back, her shoulders slumping again. She was such a young woman, but she looked old and exhausted. Dorfin quite knew the feeling. It's a little hard to explain, Impa said. My sister would know more, but it's an ancient shrine. Robbie and some of the others found it hidden on the Great Plateau. It's meant to heal any injury, no matter how grievous. Give it enough time, it can bring the dead back to life. Relief crashed in him like a tidal wave, piercing his eyes. He pulled Simon onto his lap and held his son close, one giant hand covering the child. Link was not lost to them, and perhaps, if they could rescue me from Ruta, perhaps they could even bring her to this mysterious shrine too. All was not lost. There was still a chance. They could still. However, Impa looked uncertain. He looked guilty. What? Dorfin asked, more sharply than he intended. The records of the shrine were woefully incomplete, Impa added in a rush. He spoke faster and faster, as if to get it over with. We can't be sure if there will be side effects. We don't even know how long it will take Link to wake up. Side effects? Muzu asked sharply. Even Impa's guards looked nervous. Impa sighed. To her credit, she met Dorfin's gaze as she continued. The records are missing much information. We don't even know for sure if the shrine was used successfully before. But the records were clear on one thing. There's a high chance that the slumber restoration will deprive Link of his memories completely. For a moment, Dorfin was sure he'd misheard. His memories? His memories? That couldn't be right. He tried to imagine a Link who didn't remember Mifa. He tried to imagine Link looking at him with blank, dead eyes. He tried to imagine Link not smiling at Sidon. Link not proudly talking about his little sister Errol. Link not mimicking Rivali when his back was turned. Link not laughing at Baz and Riven's theatrics. Link not even remembering Zelda. It was impossible. It made no sense. Oh, I'm sorry, I skipped the line. Link not knowing and loving Mifa. It was impossible. It made no sense. No, Dorfin said, but Impa only looked at him sadly. So you have killed him twice, Muzu said bitterly. Vah Ruta has trapped Princess Mifa. Your guardians killed Prince Link, and now your shrine will take him from us all over again. Princess Zelda left the Sheikah slate with him, Impa said. We believe that, if his memories are lost, there's enough information on there to help trigger them again. And why should we trust your princess's plan? Trello suddenly demanded, breaking his silent slimy spear on the ground. She failed. Emma drew herself up, eyes sparkling. Don't you ever. That's enough, Dorfin said heavily. Sidon was clinging to him, and Dorfin leaned heavily against the back of the throne. All of you, leave us. Muzu, take Sidon. I would speak with Lady Impa alone. Muzu protested, loudly. One warning glare was enough to silence him. Trello's soldiers were rough with Impa's guards as they escorted them out. Muzu carried Sidon, murmuring gently as the child began to cry, asking for Mifa, demanding to know when Link would wake up. In moments, they were alone, just Dorfan and Impa, staring at each other tiredly. The journey to the domain could not have been an easy one. The road was all but destroyed, and there were so many monsters. Once the roads are safe enough, Dorfan said, I will have a group of knights guard the Great Plateau. I will not allow my son to wake alone. Your Majesty, I am not asking permission, Lady Impa. I am merely informing you. It's not safe, Impa argued. If Gan realizes that he lives, he won't stop until he destroys the entire plateau. And if he realizes while Link is all alone, Dorfin leaned forward, holding Impa's nervous gaze. He is my family, beloved of my dear daughter, beloved by me. I will not leave him alone. Impa swallowed. She nodded. I'm sorry, Your Majesty, said quietly, for everything, for your losses. Dorfin sighed. He felt chained down by sheer exhaustion. He couldn't imagine ever rising from his throne again. He couldn't imagine tomorrow, or the day after. He couldn't imagine a future at all. But Dorfan was not Muzu. He was not one to lay blame at the feet of an innocent. None of this was Impa's doing. For whatever it's worth, he said, I'm sorry for your losses too. Now, what exactly is Zelda's plan? Thus began the Age of Burning Fields. Reports trickled in. Reports of great armies of monsters, entire villages, towns, and cities destroyed. Akala Citadel fell the day after Dorfan met with Impa. Death Mountain continued to erupt. Landscapes were torn apart. Rivers changed their courses. Entire forests were ripped up by their roots. Fires raged all over the land, utterly out of control. Laurelin Village was nearly washed away. Dueling Peak Stable was little more than a pile of ashes and charred wood. Fort Hateno just barely stayed standing. According to eyewitnesses, that was largely thanks to Link. Despite everything, Dorfin felt a flicker of pride when he heard that. At the end of the month, the moon turned red at midnight. Smoke rose from the ground, embers sparked in the sky, and sulfur burned Dorfin's nose. Within the hour, an exhausted Trello reported that the monster den they'd slain that day was suddenly repopulated. Similar reports came in. Within 2 weeks, the moon turned red again, and the same reports reached Zora's domain. People quickly began to call it the Blood Moon. Somehow, for some reason, when it rose, slain monsters returned to life. It didn't matter how many monsters they killed, how many monster dens they destroyed. At some point, and they could never be quite sure when, the Blood Moon would rise and undo all their work. An eternal stalemate. It was an exhausting prospect. Castletown was destroyed, swamped in dark, gloomy air, and covered in patches of a strange substance called malice. Guardians roamed the ruined streets freely. The calamity twisted around Hyrule Castle like some warped dragon, a cloud of red and black. And at its heart, where the throne room used to be, was a flicker of golden light. Princess Zelda, trapping Ganon within the castle, holding the worst of his powers at bay. Of course, Dorfin was grateful. He added the poor child to his prayers, hoping for her safety and success with all his heart. Not many Zora shared that opinion. Like Muzu, many of the adults and elderly blamed the Sheikah, Zelda, and Rome for the destruction they faced and their heavy losses. Every day, Zoras gathered at the reservoir to watch Ruta. There were 3 more rescue attempts with more loss of life before Zorafan was forced to call them off. They couldn't afford more losses. Mifa, forgive me, he thought desperately. He looked at the light scale trident, Mifa's beloved weapon, and finally allowed himself to break down and cry in the privacy of his chambers. Muzu insisted Mifa was merely trapped, but Dorfan knew. His daughter was gone. Gods help him, but he couldn't save her. He couldn't protect her. He could not send more soldiers and knights on such a suicide mission. Mifa could not be saved, but Sidon still needed him. One day, Link would wake up and be expected to fix all of this. Eventually, Hyrule would look to Link, the weight of the world on his slight shoulders, and they'd watch every move he made all over again. They'd be back where they started, expecting a teenager to save the world. The orphan had to be ready. He had to plan. He would not let Link do this alone. It took a whole year for the road leading from Zora's domain to be safe enough for travel. It was still shattered, still uneasy, but almost free of monsters. Most of them had moved on, looking for more populous areas, more prey to hunt. Trello marched right into the throne room, head held high. I volunteer to guard the Great Plateau, Your Majesty, he said. It would be an honor to defend Prince Link and bring him home. They did not know when Link would awaken. It could take 100 years or more. By the time he woke, Trello might not be in any fit state to guard him. All the same, he was steadfast, determined. For all they knew, Link could wake up next week. He'd need help. He'd need a guide. Someone needed to bring him home. Dorafeng gladly accepted. Trello was swiftly joined by more volunteers. Baz and Riven were among the loudest. Trello didn't look thrilled by the prospect of letting his son accompanying him into the wilds of Hyrule, but Riven would not be turned away. Go with my blessing, Dorfan said. May the gods smile upon you. How was he to know his plan of a guard couldn't last forever? Another year passed. They tried to send Mifa's trident down the river as a memorial, and a miracle occurred. Mifa spoke to them all, loud and clear. No, she said, do not. Please, you must not lose yourselves to grief. Weep when you must, but learn to live again. Do not mourn me forever. Just promise to remember. Muzu looked like he was about to faint. Koda began to cry. Gaddison leaned heavily on her spear, eyes wide. Mifa? Sidon whispered, looking all around him. I'm always with you, Mifa continued. Be at peace. Dorfin didn't even realize he was crying until Capson gently patted his back and murmured, She's a brave girl, Your Majesty. Indeed, she was. His Mifa, always strong and brave, always loving and kind, one of the brightest stars of Dorfin's life. She was right. They couldn't mourn forever. They had to move on. That very evening, Dorfin began the plan for the Champions Festival in honor of Mifa and Link. At the end of the week, young Leto approached with a sketch for a statue of Mifa and Link, looking shy but determined as he proposed his idea. It was a beautiful design, exactly what the domain needed. Construction began right away. Sometimes I think we all forget how Breath of the Wild begins. It begins with Link dying. Years passed. Sidon grew into a bright young man, beloved by all. Gracious, but he even had a fan club. Sometimes they got a laugh from Dorf. Lady Yona and her family visited, braving the dangers of the wild, paid their respects and offer aid. They were, as far as Dorfin knew, the only people to visit from outside Hyrule. The rest of the world seemed determined to forget them. I will say, it's extremely interesting the fact that Yona is specifically touted as a Zora from outside of Hyrule. What is there outside of Hyrule in the Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom world? What other kingdoms are there? How far does the desert go before it finds other land? Or does the desert go until it hits the ocean, giving us a beach? When 90 years passed, Prello reluctantly retired at last. Riven and his daughter took over guarding the Great Zora Bridge. Baz, captain of the guard, took over guarding the Great Plateau when he could and arranged the soldiers who'd guard it in his absence. But then, after 100 years, disaster struck yet again. Monsters' numbers rose. The roads and cliffs surrounding Zora's domain turned treacherous once again. Varuta bellowed and began to spew water, and more water, and more water, and it didn't stop. Hyrule Field, always incredibly dangerous, got even worse. Monsters joined the Guardians. They received more and more news of young adventurers meeting terrible ends in the field. The Great Plateau had been inaccessible since the calamity struck, caving in the entrance, but now monsters moved into the outpost ruins. The blood moon seemed more frequent. Zelda can't hold on forever, Dorfin thought with rising dread. As another knight returned from his post to the plateau with horrible wounds, Dorfin had to make a decision that weighed heavily on his heart. Link, my boy, I'm so sorry, he thought. He could only pray Link would find his way home. Choking on his words like the poison they were, Dorfin ordered Baz and the others to return home. The words had barely left his mouth when Ruta bellowed again, and the constant rains felt even heavier. It was hard not to see it as an omen. Because of how long that prologue was, I'm going to say, I'm going to tease you guys for this one. I also forgot to start the timer, so we can't stop with just reading the prologue, though. We need to continue. So I'll say we're going to read up to the end of chapter 3, I think. Chapter index. You know what? No, we're going to read just till the end of chapter 2 because they do a lot in each chapter. I'm going to go ahead and say we'll read this chapter and then probably be done. That'll be a total of 6 chapters read today. And hey, that's how many we did on Thursday. Chapter 2, The Isolated Plateau. Someone holds me safe and warm. Horses prance through a silver storm. Figures dancing gracefully across my memory. Far away, long ago, glowing dim as an ember. Things my turns to remember, and a song someone sings once upon a December. Open your eyes, someone whispered. Please, open your eyes. Through the darkness, a golden light shone in the distance. Wake up, wake up, Link. The light was blue now. He'd opened his eyes. He was awake. Had he been asleep? He was surrounded by glowing blue water, swiftly draining away. He was left lying there, shivering in the gloomy chamber. He sat up, running a hand through his soaked hair. Where was he? He was in some sort of pod? Bath? Whatever it wasn't comfortable. The blue light just kept shining overhead, and his first attempt at standing up ended in an embarrassing fall. His legs didn't seem eager to cooperate. When he moved, he felt oddly winded, like he'd been running for a long time. He looked down at himself, peering curiously at all the scars littering his body. There was a thin white scar across one knee, a few scars on his forearms, and a tiny one on his right thumb. But all across the torso, those scars were huge. Burns, he thought, but he wasn't sure how he knew that. They were jagged, red and pink, awkwardly raising and dipping. In some places, his skin looked melted. There was another burn across his collarbone, creeping up across his neck. When he felt his face, he could feel a thin scar on his forehead. Not a burn, a scar from a knife, an arrow, something sharp anyway. There was a similar, smaller scar on his chin. What the hell had he been doing? How did he get all of these? Where was he? This time, he managed to clamber out of the pod bath pool thing and stand on shaking legs. His hair tumbled to his shoulders. Little cold droplets of glowing water crept down his chest. There was that voice again, a girl's voice, very soft and worried. Are you all right? Think so, he thought. Could the voice hear him? There was no one in here, so who was speaking? There was a pedestal across the room with some little device on top. Rectangular in shape with glowing blue engravings, it was oddly familiar. He picked it up. It was cool and smooth to the touch. That is a Sheikah slate, the voice said. It will help guide you after your long slumber, Link. Though he had been sleeping. How long was long? He still felt tired. And there was that name again. Link. It was his name, wasn't it? It felt right. So he, Link, held onto the Chica slate. When he approached the door with the slate in his hand, the door suddenly flashed blue and opened, leading to another chamber. This one was equally as dim as the first, but long and narrow. Your clothes are in that chest, the girl said. Indeed, there was a chest against the wall. It looked dusty, but when Link opened it, he found the promised clothes. The pants were too short on his legs. He had this thing feeling he was short, so these trousers really must have been short. The shirt was too big, dropping off one shoulder. The shoes fit okay, but the leather was cracked and the soles were thin. There was a blue hair tie, and he hastily tied his hair back as best he could. He was sure it looked sloppy, but no matter. And there was a little pouch, too, a small black pouch made of soft fabric. Inside the pouch was a locket. It was beautiful. The pendant was shaped like a teardrop, engraved with three crescent moons back to back. The entire thing was silver. Cautiously, Link opened the locket and found a small white scale shimmering inside it. He couldn't understand why his hands began to shake or why he felt like crying. Hastily, he closed the locket and put it around his neck. It took 3 tries to close the clasp. For a moment, he just knelt there in the dark, staring at the empty chest. He turned the little black pouch over in his hands, rubbing his thumb across the fabric. All of a sudden, he felt very alone. Oh, Link, I'm sorry, the voice sighed. Who are you? Link asked. The girl sounded as tired as he felt. A friend, she said. Please, darling, you must get up. Well, he supposed she had a point. He couldn't kneel here forever. He needed to to do something. Find someone. He'd been doing something before, hadn't he? Before he slept. What had he been doing? Why did he have so many scars? Link stumbled to his feet and walked down the chamber. There was another pedestal. The voice said, You just have to hold the slate to the pedestal, darling. When he did, the light turned blue again and the door opened. This time, bright light flooded in. He heard birds, that's what it was. Sunlight, that's what it was called. It was so bright it hurt his eyes. The air coming in smelled so fresh, nothing like the stuffy old air of the chambers. Link, the girl said, you are the light, our light, that must shine upon Hyrule once again. Now go. Link tilted his head, tapped the locket. What did she mean? What was Hyrule? How could a person be a light? Goodness, she made him sound so important. Drawn by the sunlight, Link took a cautious step, then another. He walked, then picked up the pace and jogged toward the light. At the exit, he brushed through a barrier of leaves and vines and began to run. He ran into the sunlight, right toward the edge of a cliff, and caught his breath. Was this Hyrule? It was beautiful. Sprawling fields and forests, a bright blue sky. Even the river seemed to shine in the sunlight. But what was in the distance? Some swirling mass of red and black? It surrounded some huge building. Was that a castle? It made him sick to his stomach. It made him so terribly frightened. He didn't even know what it was. Link looked away from it, gazing at the rest of the land. Snow-capped mountains, lakes and rivers, and ruins. Quite a bit of ruins. You could see deer. That's what they were called, deer. A lot of birds. Everywhere he looked, there was wildlife. It was big, empty, sprawling, and beautiful. Link took one look at the land and was insanely desperate to explore. His curiosity suddenly overwhelming. He wanted to be down there so badly. Surely there was a way out of here, wherever he was. The sun shone down on him. The air was clean and fresh. He could smell flowers. But down there was even more, and he wanted to see it all. The land he was on was raised. It couldn't be too hard to find a path down. A hill, a gate, or something. Link turned and immediately saw someone watching him. A tall, bulky man dressed in shades of brown. His hood covered his face, except for his long white beard, and he carried an unlit lantern on a stick. He was standing still as a statue and just staring. Creep, Link thought, getting stabbed just like. Link, the girl scolded, but she gave a scandalized laugh. Link didn't want to talk to the man, but he wanted to know the quickest way out of here, so what choice did he have? Sighing, he started off down the path towards the man. He was sitting by a campfire. Well, hello there, the old man said as Link approached. What brings a bright-eyed young man like you all the way out here? Where are we? Link asked. He could probably have some more manners. He couldn't bring himself to care. Answering a question with a question, the old man said in a amused chuckle. Ah, fair enough. This is a great plateau, lad. He stood, his knees going, pointing towards Time Building. That there is the Temple of Time, said to be the birthplace of Hyrule Kingdom. So this was Hyrule. Good to know, but how did he get off the plateau? How did he get off the plateau? He opened his mouth to ask, but the old man's gaze dropped Link's locket. Well now, he said, gesturing to it. What's that? Just like that, Link's voice deserted him. His throat tightened, his teeth snapped shut, and he hid the locket under his shirt. None of your business, he signed sharply, and Bounds was blinking surprise. He knew sign language. Sure, why not? What else had he forgotten? Well, I forgot my own name, Link thought, so that's already a bad start. He just knew the locket was important, even more important than the Sheikah slate. Someone gave it to him, and if they gave him something so beautiful, oh, whoever gave him this locket must have cared about him. It was not for the old man's eyes. If the old man just kept looking at him, like he expected Link to apologize. Oh, Link hated this man. Couldn't even say why, but he hated him. He wanted to scream at him. Wanted to break his stupid fat nose. Did he know this man before? Yeah, Link. Link pushed past the old man. He paused, snatching a big apple off the ground by the campfire. Glared at the old man again and ran off. The old man called, "Young man, for goodness sake, child, it's dangerous." Link ignored. He stomped along, munching on the baked apple. Blasted all, it was tasty and he was hungry. Temple of Time loomed behind him, an oddly beautiful ruin. All around him were trees, overgrown grass, wildflowers, and a broken courtyard. There was a shattered fountain with no water left. In every direction he looked, broken walls surrounded the edge of the plateau. There were a few ponds. One area actually looked flooded, and oh damn it, he could see no way out of here. Still, he hadn't wandered very far. That'd be an exit of some sort. He'd climb down if he had to. "You absolutely will not," the girl cried. Link finished the baked apple and sat on the edge of the broken fountain. "Did you give me the locket?" he asked. He took him around, sounding more weary. "No, Link, I didn't." Oh, felt disappointed. That would have been one mystery solved. "Do you know who did?" "I do." This is one I was trying far away from again. "Open the map on the Sheikah slate. It will show you where to go." Baffled, he fumbled with the slate. Thankfully, the so-called map wasn't hard to find, but it was all empty. Just a lot of dark blue. With one blinking spot of orange and a little yellow arrow that changed direction when he moved. The yellow arrow was him. The orange spot was where he needed to go. Follow it, the girl whispered, and then she was gone. Link stared at the map. The spot didn't look far. He could see Old Man Hill, staring in this direction. Watching him again? Link glared at him, though he didn't look to see, and marched away in the direction of the orange spot. Secret Tower activated. Please watch out for falling rocks. Falling what now? Link thought. He got his answer in seconds. The ground suddenly rumbled and began to rise in the air. He rose because honest goodness tower rising out of the ground. He fell as the ground shook, rocks fell, and with a yelp, Link tried to shield his head with his hand. Thankfully, nothing hit him. He heard animals making startled noise and something else. Something not animal, but not human, letting out odd shrieks and shouts. Link dared to raise his head, and he could see other towers rising. Some close by, some far away. Did I do that? He wondered, utterly lost. He stayed crouched on the ground until the shaking stopped. Slowly, cautiously, he pushed himself up. At least he didn't fall over this time. He picked up the Sheikah slate from the pedestal and tapped at his locket, safely hidden under his shirt. Okay, alright. He checked a bunch of towers. That was probably fine. The voice said to come here and follow what the slate told him, and he did, so yeah, it was probably okay. Goodness, he hoped no one got hurt when the towers rose. Now, how did he get down from here? Link wandered the tower slowly in a circle. He could see a gap in the floor. Did he have to climb down? There weren't any proper stairs. He sighed and leaned against the edge. This is just, oh, it was so weird. He didn't know why he was here. He didn't know why he didn't know. And he was hearing a voice in his head. No people didn't hear voices, did they? He couldn't be sure of anything. He just knew a few basic facts. His name was Link and he was covered in scars, some more terrible than others. He had a locket and he would not let anything happen to the locket. He'd been asleep for a long time and he didn't know anything else. He trusted the voice, but he didn't know why he did that either. He pulled the locket out from under his shirt, running a finger over the engraving, gently twisting the chain. Someone gave this to him. Someone very important. Someone who wasn't on this plateau, and he needed to find them. Link, the voice, the girl whispered. She still sounded exhausted, but not so distant now. You must remember. Try to remember. Remember what? Link asked. He straightened up, looking towards the castle. Everything, the girl said. sounds so sad. It has been 100 years. He heard the word, but they made no sense. 100 years? No, that couldn't be right. Wouldn't he know? You didn't even know your own name, he reminded himself. Of course you wouldn't know anything. His hands felt numb, and he had to tightly grip the slate before he could drop it. He shuddered, feeling queasy, feeling dizzy. It felt like something heavy was pressing down on him. He stared at the castle, at that golden light among all the darkness, and the voice spoke more loudly, more firmly. When Calamity Ganon regains his true form, this world will face its end. We need you. Hyrule needs you. That thing swarmed around the castle, swelled in size, and, even from such a great distance, Link could hear it roar. He could see massive golden fiery eyes and a boar-like head. It was so out of place in this beautiful world. It didn't belong here. He had the distinct sense it was hunting. You must hurry, Link. The girl pleaded. Please, my friend. You're in there. Link browsed forth. That light. It's you, isn't it? He didn't answer. He didn't have to. Link knew he was right. He was gone again. Whoever she was. She knew him. She could answer his questions, and she was in danger. He was with that beast. He had to help her. Deep in his bones, Link knew he'd do anything to help her. Hesitation forgotten, Link began to climb down the tower. His limbs ached. His chest was heaving by the time he reached the bottom, but he had to go. He had to get out of here and help her. Oh there, a voice cried, an irritating voice. Link swore under his breath at the old man. Flew down from the sky? He was holding some sort of contraption, and he soared down to Link's side as easily as going for a stroll. Well now, the old man said in jolly tone, we have quite the enigma here, He looked at Tower thoughtfully. Can I ask, did anything happen up there? Link didn't answer. The old man smiled, looked sad, regretful. I see I have some work to do to gain your trust, he said. Understandable, but you were looking towards the castle, lad. No doubt you noted that monstrosity surrounding it. Reluctantly, Link nodded. The old man hummed a response, looking up and down. Well then, courageous one, said, you intend to go there? Courageous? Link wasn't sure what he'd given the old man that impression. He hardly done anything brave, just accidentally had a bunch of towers. Anyone could do that. Maybe he's trying to get on Link's good side. But he did intend to go to the castle, so he nodded again. You'll need to leave the Great Plateau first, the old man said, as if Link didn't know that. I suppose you bought my paraglider. We're surrounded with sheer cliffs on all sides, you see. Trying to climb down, well, let's just say no death can be more certain. Or more foolish. He threw Link a sharp look like he knew Link seriously considering it anyway. Link realized the childish urge to stick his tongue out at him. Billy was not on back, paraglider. Link grinned. Oh, that's got your interest. Well, let's get trade. Follow me, lad. I'll leave the old man credit. He walked slowly enough for Link to keep up. He was much bigger than Link. He could have strode ahead, but he kept pace with Link instead. At the top of a small hill, he used his lantern to point across the pond. There was a little black structure covered in orange light. That old shrine suddenly lit up, the old man said, when the towers rose. I'd imagine there's something valuable in there, wouldn't you? Here's my deal. You bring whatever's in there, and I'll give you my paraglider. He smiled at Link again, that oddly sad smile. Do we have a deal, courageous one? Link finished his block it again. He nodded. Between him and the shrine, there was Shivon red being. They had snouts, they held clubs and brittle swords. Bokoblins. The word came to his mind so easily. It happened slowly. It felt like all his senses were sharpening. His vision felt clearer. His hearing felt stronger. All his fear fled. His gaze narrowed down to his three enemies. They made odd pig-like noises and human shrieks. They seemed chattering to each other, marching around the little camp with their weapons. Weapons Link could use. He knew he could. His breathing came steadily and easily. Slowly, Link crouched down and picked up a tree branch. It would do. He grasped his locket. Help me, he thought of someone. The important unknown someone. He took the locket and his shirt again, because it could not come to harm. Ignoring the old man's side, Link marched toward the monsters and the shrine. And there we go. Link's awake and wandering around the plateau. I think I already left kudos on the story. Oh no, I haven't yet. What? I can't believe I never left kudos on this. All right. In that case, that was Luminous Chapter 2. All right. So, I hope you guys enjoyed this. I know I had a good time. Now, on to the outro. Thank you all so much for coming to join me on debut week, day 5. It was Fanfiction Friday today, and I must say, I had a great time today, and I hope you guys had a great time as well. I will say, I already said that, didn't I? I need to drink water real quick before I continue with the outro. All right. Thanks so much for joining me on day 5 of debut week, Fanfiction Friday. Tomorrow there is no stream. Day 6, the finale day of debut week, will be on Sunday. Do I work this Sunday? Oh my gosh, I really don't want to go, but I might have to. All right. I will see you all again on Sunday for the final day of debut week. On that day, we will be playing Minecraft and we will be on the Coven SMP. I haven't streamed Coven SMP content for almost 3 months. But you know what? That's fine. I've got stuff to do. I've got lore to do. It's the lore. It's a lore SMP, so I might not interact with chat as often, but I will be there on Sunday. The Coven SMP. Keep an eye out for my oh, oh my gosh. I'm suddenly super tired. Which I guess on some level makes sense. It's almost midnight. Anyways, Sunday is Coven SMP day. So we'll be continuing on Coven. I hope you guys have a wonderful night and a beautiful Saturday. It's gonna be cold as fuck tomorrow. At least where I live. But I hope you guys stay warm, stay happy, stay healthy, all that good stuff. And have a good night. It's gonna be time to end the stream. Again, shout out hold on. Shout out to Sir Undead for making the wonderfully amazing model PNGTuber that you see before you. It's great. It's got four different toggles. It's got the talking toggle, so it's quiet and then talking with the mouth open. And then there's also a sleeping toggle for when I deafen. And there's a hurt toggle for when I mute. So yeah, I hope you guys have a great day. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Have a great day or a great night or whatever time zone it is when you're watching this. It's time for the stream to come to an end. It's the end of Fanfiction Friday. Quite literally, in fact, there's half an hour before midnight, and that's when it technically becomes Saturday. So I will see you all on Sunday. Have a wonderful night. The YouTube channel is going to get the VODs uploaded for Thursday and Friday. So have a good night. Bye.